I want to go over a few basic prompt best practices. So essentially, these are some suggestions on how you can make your prompts a little more robust for more complex tasks. So for a lot of fields like first name, last name, if you're trying to extract certain amount columns or, I would say for like a lot of these cases, you may find that just simply putting the field name itself is good enough to get a pretty workable extraction accuracy. But if you find yourself working through some more complex tasks, or you have very specific formatting that you need for your particular solution, then you may find some of these suggestions useful. But yeah, just again, you don't need all the prompts to follow, and be the most robust part of having alarms at your disposal is that you can give very basic prompts and they do a pretty good job of extending that over to most use cases. But if you find yourself having trouble, you're trying to really improve your accuracy and get something very precise and accurate, then you may find some of these useful. So just a few of these here. So I'm going to go over the 4 suggestions I have on the screen, and then I'll show a sample project with 2 fields that kind of use these suggestions in the way that the prompt is actually built. So number 1, you want to make sure that your instructions are clear. So be very direct, be imperative, and use positive framing. It's better to tell LLM exactly what to do as opposed to telling it what not to do. So for example, instead of saying do not include letters, it'd be better to say return only numbers. Secondly, keep your field and attribute names short. So with Instabase, when you're creating your fields, you have the option to add not just the prompt description, but also the name of the field. These names are also used as part of the LLM input. The same goes for attribute names for tables or list extraction. So the more precise and the more relevant that you make these field names, the better that it will help with these extractions. But at the same time, try to keep the name short and any more kind of rules or descriptions. It's best to keep that as part of the actual description for the prompt. Secondly, using cleaning prompts for complexity asks. So whenever you have an instruction field, you can add a cleaning field, which is used to refine, reformat, or transform data. So this can be a different date format, or it can be a specific JSON format that you need for any downstream systems. But typically nowadays, LLMs are pretty good at doing this formatting for you. So that actually suggests that if you have any particular formatting, include that in your actual prompt description. But if you have any more complex formatting, maybe you need to run some kind of Python code to reformat it, to have the case-based formatting or whatever it is, then you can use a cleaning prompt. But generally speaking, if you can include your format requests in the actual description itself, most LLMs at this point are pretty good at handling that without getting confused, as they may have been in the sort of earlier days. So if you have a particular output run, and you're unsure of why it came up with a particular extraction, then it's very easy to go through that reasoning and figure out kind of the thought process behind that. But again, it does help with the accuracy as well, if you find that you struggle a little bit with that. So I'll keep this for more complex prompts, usually not only needed if you're asking again, something like the last name or first name. But if you're asking for maybe even a classification, this can really help out with understanding why it selected that particular classification. So going into the project that we have here, I'm just going to show 2 prompts that sort of embody some of the suggestions that I spoke with earlier. So first off, there's a statement date. Again, this is a pretty straightforward field. Generally speaking, I would just input the name itself, and then by default, the description will be the field name. I'll usually leave that. So again, one other thing is keep it simple at first. If you're having issues with accuracy, then go ahead and try to refine the prompt. But instead of having the basic prompt of just the field name, here's an example of how you can make that a little bit more robust. So first of all, obviously asking what you want it to extract and being specific with the type of formatting that you want, and then giving instructions on what to do when a date is not found. This is particularly helpful because it can help with reducing subhallucinations if the content doesn't exist. And obviously you want this to be consistently formatted so that you know how to deal with the downstream. And then, of course, providing some example outputs at the end that the LLM is aware how you want it to deal with different input date formats. And so again, all of this could also be handled, in a clean prompt. You could just say extract the document statement date, and then you can put this all in the formatting. But LLMs, again, are quite good at dealing with sort of these multiple asks in a single prompt. And the second one I have here is transaction details. So typically this would also be a cable field or a list extraction field. But here's an example of how you could do it in a text extraction if you'd be very specific with your ask, as well as provide the particular output schema that you want. So extract all transaction line items from the bank statement for each transaction, extract and normalize the following fields. Here we go into the different fields. So you have the date, we've provided the format we want, the description, pretty straightforward, the amount, we have a few extra rules. So treating withdrawals as negative and deposits as positive. And then we have a particular request here for classifying each transaction into a set of specific categories. And then here we employ the reasoning ask where we tell the LLM to provide a justification for the category that selects. And then, as always at the end, give an example of the specific output schema that we want. So we can see that the LLM does provide the output that we asked for in this sort of table format. The table formatting is done by Instabase, but it requires it to be in a specific JSON format that we have listed here. And then you can see that it predicted a category and then also gave the reasoning for that. So yeah, it's going to be helpful for debugging, or it could be helpful depending on the solution that you have and the downstream systems that you need to store this as well to provide some reasoning for perhaps a client or whatever the need is. There you have it. Effective prompting comes down to setting a clear goal, providing relevant context, defining the expected output, and refining the prompt as needed.